Hello and welcome to the presentation today on gangs in our schools, the influence, effect, and prevention. My name is Richard Rosano. This is going to be my last term here at Azusa Pacific University. A couple more weeks of internship and I will be graduating here in May, so definitely looking forward to that. Let's dive right into it. Let's start with some numbers. There's approximately 24,500 gangs in the United States. These numbers do date back to about 2009. But they do consist of 1 million gang members as part of these gangs. 147,000 of them are currently incarcerated. The number that sticks out to me is that about 400,000 of them are teenage gang members. 360,000 are teenage boys, 32,000 are teenage girls. But 40% of all of the gang members of the United States are walking our halls, high schools, middle schools, something that we need to definitely be aware of. 46% of middle and high school students believe that drugs are used, stored, or sold at school. This is another just one of those interesting facts, one of those interesting things. And to better assist you finding stats like this, check out the California Healthy Kids Survey. Really informative, and it has some unique information as far as what's really going on with these kids. If the kids are being candid and truthful, some of the questions that the survey asks is, when was the last time you used marijuana? When was the last time you used all kinds of recreational drugs? When was the last time you used alcohol? How frequently? Stuff like that. The numbers are surprising, so check it out. This is the age of gang members. Again, just shows that 40% trend here for juveniles that are under 18 years old. This stops in 2006, so we're still flirting with the 40% range. So what is a gang? Generically, it's just a group of people through the organization, formation, and establishment of an assemblage sharing a common identity. Football team defines that. That defines a football team. A baseball team. It's a group of individuals sharing a common identity, a common goal. They want to accomplish, winning the championship or whatever it is. So that's a very generic definition of gang. Specifically, what we're talking about today is collective, primarily adolescent and young adults who interact frequently, are frequently and deliberately involved in illegal activities, share a common collective identity, and typically adopt certain methods of identification and or claim control over certain areas. The key words out of that is primarily adolescent, interact frequently, illegal activities, and claim control over certain areas. The last thing that we want is for there to be some kind of a turf war on our campus between two rival gangs. But if we have these kids that are involved in gangs, we're assuming that they're deliberately involved in illegal activities. So something to keep in mind. A study into gang issues in schools found that the term gang was rarely used locally with young people. That means gang members that are active gang members, the younger generation aren't even calling themselves gangs anymore. They're using terms such as family, brethren, crews, cuz, my boys, or simply the people I grew up with. Why do teens join gangs? I think we can all probably come up with reasons, and most of them will probably be on this list, but I'm going to run down it briefly just to give you guys an idea. Social and economic reasons. Kids might be a loner or have no friends, maybe needs money. Power, seeking an opportunity to be a leader. Status, opportunity to be feared, same thing as power. Wanting to be feared, wanting for the kids that are in school that are there to actually learn and be productive learners, want to have some intimidation factors over that kid. Security. Maybe there's a kid that's always been a loner and kind of been bullied and picked on and says, you know what, I'm done with it. I want to join this gang so I have a sense of security. Friendship, an opportunity to make friends and be part of a group. Family substitute is the big one for me. I'm a big stickler on parental involvement. During my internship, you call home and you know the parents that are involved and active, and you know the ones that aren't. These kids are going to get their love and attention somewhere. And if they're not getting it at home, what's the alternative? And where are the alternatives? Economic profit, making money through criminal activity, robbing people, robbing banks, robbing, burglary, vehicle burglaries, whatever it may be, home invasions. And also there's substance abuse influences. Some of these kids get hooked early on drugs, and this is their easy access to get their hands on some drugs. Social influences, music, movies, magazines, video games, internet, friends, family. It's everywhere. It's everywhere nowadays. It's so easy for these 7 to 12-year-old kids, without the proper parent involvement, to get these games like this Grand Theft Auto game that you see pictured here, where basically your character runs around and Grand Theft Auto. I mean, and then the title of the game right there. You hijack cars, you're shooting people, you're completing missions that are not missions that you should be completing, as far as, robbing people, running down the street and holding people at gunpoint. I mean, it's just outrageous, and I guarantee you, I've seen it firsthand, that there is kids that are younger than 10 years old playing these kind of games. The problem is that when you're that young, you might not be able to separate what's reality and what's not. Academic effects. This is the primary reason why I wanted to discuss and even bring up gangs. It's important to understand that I'm not talking about just the actual gang member. I think that it can be well assumed that if you're a gang member and you're going to school, your primary responsibility isn't to get straight A's on all your tests. I know that there's probably some gang members that do very well academically, but I think that their heads are oftentimes in other places. So there's no doubt that being in a gang has an effect on you academically. What I wanted to focus on was what kind of effect do they have on other students. Intimidation factor, other students just being scared because of these individuals. Piaget and Maslow, they coined, the prerequisite to learning. What is the prerequisite to learning? Well, according to Piaget and Maslow, it's having a safe environment. Before we expect any of our kids to come into our classroom and learn effectively, they need to feel safe. And if they don't feel safe, they're not going to learn up to what our standard might be. And that can just piggyback right onto productive learning. The difference between learning for learning's sake and actually productively learning something. Being able to learn something and then ace a test, do well on your CSTs. That's productive learning. And we need a safe environment before we reach that stage. Some of these kids are just too scared to learn. And this is actually the title of a study where 340,000 kids were surveyed and their test scores were evaluated. And granted, 85% of the students reported back saying, hey, I feel safe at school, everything's cool. Okay, but 15% of the students said they feel unsafe at school. And whether you think that's a high number or not, I believe it is. And feeling unsafe in school, as the study showed, led to consistent negative effects on test scores. That's your regular test, that's standardized tests. Also, it led to a higher total of mean absences, lower scores on the math and English language arts standardized tests. Kids aren't coming to school because they're scared. Directly or indirectly with gangs, it wasn't specified. But I think that it can be assumed that, there is an intimidation level when there's active gang members on your campus. And if these kids are scared or intimidated of them and they want to stay home, they're missing out on productive learning time. So there's no doubt in my mind that gangs definitely have an effect academically on other students, not only themselves. It's a nice little comic I wanted to throw in here. You see the alternative school here. We can't afford to save this one, but don't worry, someone will catch him. And you have the gangs down there just waiting for it. They're just ready, willing, and able to take in any body, literally any body that they can use to their benefit. What can we look for as educators, as an administration, counselors? What can we start to look for around our campus? Tagging, 5th Street, 7th Street, RTS, North Side this, South Side that. Once you start seeing rival stuff or stuff crossed out on your campus, that's when you might have a turf war problem. Wearing standard colors or particular items of jewelry, like bandanas, baggy clothing for protection against weapons, the use of gang signs, that's an obvious one, sudden change in friendship groups or behaviors, sudden acquisition of expensive possessions. These kids. After a certain amount of time, you're going to know what's normal and what's not normal. If they come in with diamond-studded earrings, all decked out with a new iPhone or whatever it is, that's just suspicious. Or possibly they're carrying weapons, including replicas or items that could be used as weapons. Other early signs: attendance change, decline in academics, behavioral change, defiance or disrespect, style of dress, tattoos, school detachment. These are all things that can be done in the office. We don't even need to go out on the campus to observe these things. Some of them we do, but attendance change can be done in the office. Noticing a decline in academics, getting phone calls and emails from teachers saying this kid is just being defiant all of a sudden and very disrespectful. Those are all signs. And the reason why I bring this up is because it's important moving forward that we identify these students before a problem exists. And that's why we lead to what can schools do. Let's take an anti-gang approach. communication to staff, students, and parents that schools are neutral grounds and that gang, drug, and weapon activities will receive priority response. Apply discipline in a timely, firm, fair, and consistent manner. If you do something to Johnny, make sure you do it to Jacob if it's for the same thing. Let's stay consistent. Institute and student anti-gang education and prevention programs. After all the stuff that's gone on with bullies and the suicides and just all of the negative things that have gone on with bullies, obviously it was time to start for these schools to start implementing anti-bullying programs. My idea is let's not wait until gangs become such a problem in our schools that we have to implement an anti-gang program. Instead, let's take a proactive approach. Let's institute these programs now. Let's not wait. Let's do it now. That way we don't ever get to that point where we're losing lives or on campus. Establish a mechanism for student conflict mediation. Train school personnel and parents in gang identification, intervention, and prevention techniques. Very big one there. What is it? Without profiling, let's stay up to date on what does a gang member look like? What types of things do they say? How do they act? So we can start identifying and preventing this activity. What else can schools do? I love this sign. I would love for that to just be posted. Bam. Let everybody know. Little side note, sorry. Obtain input from youth on violence-related concerns and prevention strategies. Some of these kids know what's up, and some of them are willing to tell you what's up. Establish cooperative relationships and communication networks with parents, law enforcement, other criminal justice agencies, social services, and other community members. Set up mechanisms and structures to promote information sharing and coordination among agencies addressing youth, gangs, and related public safety efforts. County, state, city, district-wide, there is so many resources nowadays for gangs, gang intervention, gang prevention. We need to start using them. This is the estimated number of gangs from 1996 to 2007. As you can see, we had a little dip in the early 2000s, but it's definitely trending up. Now, this ended in 2007, so the information is obviously 5 years out, but you see where the trend's going. And just to conclude, I just want to say, there's no doubt in my mind that these gang members and the gang influence on schools is prevalent, whether it be intimidation factors or just making other students scared. I think Piaget and Maslow said it best. If the prerequisite to learning, students come to school to learn. If they're coming to school and their primary objective is to learn, at least that's what it is for educators. We want to teach our kids. If that's the primary reason why we have them come in, we need to understand that a safe environment is essential for learning to take place. And if we do not have a safe environment, what can we truly expect? So here's my resources. Thank you all for your time. Wish you all the very best in the future. And hope you get something out of this presentation. Thank you very much. Take care.